Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road. Jack Nerad back with you. We have a terrific guest for you, a really interesting guy doing an interesting thing. He is a designer of electric bikes, and his name is Tim Seward. Tim, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to talk to you. You, of course, work for Onyx Motorbikes. Do some really cool stuff. I love your website. Love what you do there. Pretty interesting stuff. Let's talk about just kind of the phenomenon of electric bikes, right? It strikes me that electric power maybe is better suited to bikes than it even is to cars. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the activity, right? As I'm getting older, I'm not quite as active as I used to be in my younger years. I'm 43 now and turning 44 in a few weeks. And I look at it as when I was younger, I was very, very active. I had a high activity level. So I probably would still, ride electric bikes in the 90s, in the 80s if they were around. But, when I was younger and in my 20s, I was really into skateboarding and being super active and, just not like fit, like exercising, but more or less I was getting my exercise by being very active, right? So I think bicycles, the non-electric ones, the analog ones as we would call them, really great for someone who's looking for a workout, really getting their blood flowing and stuff like that. But I would say for most people, it's not a great solution for commuting anymore, because you have so many people that, driving fast on the road. There's not very good bike infrastructure for bike lanes and things. And so in my opinion, you'll have hundreds, if not thousands of people pass you in a day while you're riding a bicycle, right? If you're trying to commute on it. So you'll see very few people actually will commute on a bicycle on major roadways. They'll take bike paths and things like that if there are some, but most places don't have that, right?
Right.
So,
even recreationally, I think a lot of people encounter something that we certainly encounter in Manhattan Beach, and that's hills, right?
Right.
I'm fine riding an analog bike on flat ground, but I'm a bit older than you by quite a bit, actually.
Right.
And, when I encounter a hill, well, sometimes I just have to get off and walk it up, and I'm very jealous of people on an electric bike who can, use that torque to go right up the hill.
That's the same thing. Even when I was younger and I rode around my BMX or my mountain bike, I lived in a very hilly area. I'm from San Francisco, Bay Area, and the hills there, as you know, are probably some of the steepest in the world. And when I was a kid, I'd always push myself to try to ride up the hills, and I could, but I would be thoroughly exhausted. Even as a young teenager, I'd be thoroughly exhausted climbing one of the steepest hills on a bike because, it was more of a challenge for me. I got to do it. I can't get off the bike. And you're going slower than you would even walk up the hill a lot of times, right? So it was kind of a ridiculous thing. And so I actually got into gas-powered mopeds. Not like the seated scooter style, but the actual retro ones that were based off of bikes and then eventually kind of turned into small motorcycles. And those are actually called mopeds. People today think of a moped as like a Vespa, but that's not, in my opinion, that's not the right term. That's a seated scooter.
Yeah, that's a scooter. It's not a moped.
The government has kind of confused everything, and so people call that a moped, and it doesn't have pedals. Like moped means like motor with pedals, right? And so anyway, I wouldn't get into that argument because there's people who just don't understand it. But the reality is I was riding around on what motorbike is a better word, right? So motorbike, I was riding around on a motorbike, which is essentially a small motorcycle. And that would get me up the hills in San Francisco a lot better than a bicycle. And I sometimes, because they were, if they were stock, they weren't modified, I'd have to pedal a little bit to get it up a really steep hill in San Francisco. And I did that for, I don't know, most of my life, right?
Right.
And then I started modifying them. And so for me, electric bikes really started to come around when I was just out of college. I took a long time to get through college, but I was in my late 20s, and my first design studio job, the guy that was teaching me all of SolidWorks and all the CAD, he was dabbling with electric bikes in 2010. And that was literally kind of my first experience with it. And he was putting a motor on the front of the regular mountain bike, and he was going to Burning Man, and he had rattlesnake tires and all this stuff. And I just thought it was like the weirdest thing, but it was also so intriguing to see someone like build their own mode of transportation when I was, building Sonos for consumer electronic brands and doing like power gloves and weird stuff for like gaming, and just watching him on his free time making this really cool electric bike. And then like the story for me was that I didn't think too much of it. I wasn't really that interested, and I was like, I'm still gonna ride my mopeds and stuff. And then years down the line, well, not years down, like 2012. It feels like years, but in like design history, that's a long time actually. And I literally started to notice that there is this insurgent of electric vehicles starting to happen. And so my friend, who was also really into gas-powered mopeds, he had his own company selling the parts for him, and he kind of had the bright idea of like, why don't I turn one of these gas-powered mopeds into an electric vehicle? And then he got me involved because I was, he wanted me to design it. But it was really cool, but everything was so expensive. Like literally that bike would have cost about $7,000 retail. And it only had 48 volts, which is now that's kind of a low voltage. That's more like your standard e-bike now. For a moped, that was high voltage in 2012. And then it only went 40 miles an hour, which is fast for some people. But if you're kidding mopeds, like the gas-powered ones, those can go up to 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. So 40 miles an hour is kind of your very bare minimum speed that you'd want to be able to achieve to be able to keep up with traffic and everything. So that's what got me into electric bikes, and I definitely feel like electric bikes became more of mopeds became more of a commuter tool for me to be able to get around San Francisco, and not so much like for exercise or anything like that. It was really to get A to B, and it was way faster than driving a car. I don't have to worry about parking. I can ride
economical, a lot of
super economical. Like I probably saved hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year riding one of these, because you don't need insurance. You register them once in California. It's $23, and then you can ride them. And the only thing you have to worry about is they're getting stolen. And so you really, like in San Francisco, you got to put a ton of bike locks around it. I would have 4 bike locks. But yeah, for me, it was a great mode of transportation, and getting into electric was the next step. And I kind of have a story of why I got into electric and why I came back to it.
Well, tell that story. Yeah. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So for me, between 2002, I was still riding the gas-powered mopeds. My buddy who made that original kind of concept in 2012, he gave up on it because it was expensive. We would have to reproduce all these gears and parts for stuff. Like the stuff wasn't available. And so it just looked like a really costly project. So he stopped. He moved on to go actually sell parts for like Honda motorcycles. So he's one of the biggest vintage suppliers now. It's called 4-into-1. And he basically supplies all these aftermarket parts for custom, vintage Hondas, like 70s, 60s, and 70s Hondas. So I think he's really cool. And I'm bummed that he never, it would have been really cool to work with him. But anyway, so I ended up kind of always thinking about that in the back of my head. And when I was at a design studio, I'm riding this really loud gas-powered moped to go back and forth to work. And they were saying, yeah, bring it inside. It's so cool looking. It's like the coolest thing, we're going to show this off. And then after a couple months, I remember them like, oh, it kind of smells. I think it's leaking gas in the shop. And then like, okay, so then I would leave it outside, and then it'd get the spark plugs broken off because of the homeless people use that for breaking windows and stuff. And so then they were like, okay, no, let's bring it back inside. We feel bad for you. And then they were like, wait, you smell like gas, and kind of making me feel like the outcast suddenly. And I was like, wait a second, you guys thought it was so cool, and now I feel like I'm being shunned in the design studio because I'm not the cool guy anymore. I'm like the kind of sloppy, greasy mechanic guy for whatever reason, because I ride on a moped and I don't drive like an electric car, or Tesla was kind of starting to come around in 2014, 2016. But it was getting this kind of weird connotation of like, oh, he's not that cool anymore. And then eventually, like because I was on contract, my contract didn't get extended to work for Cisco. So I was doing a big Cisco conferencing project, and I was super bummed. And I remember that a couple of weeks before I basically lost my job, I saw the person who interviewed me for the next job. She was looking out the window at me. I was driving away on my moped, my super loud moped.
There you go, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, she freaking hates me. And so I started to think, like, wait a second, it's so weird. This thing is making people upset. And I do remember starting to think people were flipping me off when I would drive around in it, and people plugging their ears. Because to make it go fast, you have to make it really loud, and you have to do expansion chambers and all this stuff, and modify the carburetors, everything. It was fun to do, but I was making a nuisance.
So how'd you make the transition to electric? I mean, how'd that happen?
I literally said, I'm going to take this bike that I love so much and convert it to electric. And I started looking to it, and I realized everything went down in price, like significantly. And this is in 2016. And I didn't think about it as being a job or like making a product. I just wanted to make it for myself, so I wasn't causing a ruckus, and also just kind of impressing my friends that were into these gas-powered mopeds. And I started putting all these parts on it, and I realized that this was even better than gas. I was able to accelerate 10 times faster than any modified. I could put thousands of dollars into a gas-powered bike, and I still could not achieve the torque and the off-the-line speed. And then to get to the top speed, that was very easy. So it suddenly became a way better tool of transportation for me overnight, and I was super excited about it. And
so how did you commercialize that? I mean,
I started just kind of showing it to my friends, and everyone was like, oh, that's weird, whatever. There's all the wires hanging out and everything. So then I started to clean it up, make it look more presentable, get people, just my friends and everything, excited about it. And the tech shop was a big thing in San Francisco, so I was able to go in and fabricate, this is a big metal panel, right? So I would, just real simple, would fabricate it, and you could anodize it at the tech shop, and you could powder coat, you could laser cut, do all sorts of stuff. They had everything. And I had a subscription, there, so I could go in and just after work and make my bike. Made the bike, started riding it around, and then everyone was asking, where do you buy this?
I'd like to buy one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
I was like, what are you talking about? I just made this myself. And this person who was, I guess, an investor or something, stopped me and said, are you kidding me? This isn't for sale? Like, you're just riding this around? He's like, we got to talk. And then we started talking, and he was the one that essentially, I don't remember who this guy was, because it didn't end up working out from like a financial perspective. I knew it wasn't enough money, but he sparked the idea, like, maybe I should sell this, right? Because he was willing to give me hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I know, being in product design, that's still not enough money to start a business. And but it was like, this guy was literally ready to write me a check. So I was like, okay.
Basically, kind of, it run into you on the street and just saw you had a cool product and went, right, to commercialize this, right?
Exactly. And being a product designer myself, launching tons of products for other people, and realizing that I'm, almost every Indiegogo and Kickstarter that I did for people at a agency, I was at least getting them $1 million in sales, right? And I realized I was doing a lot of the work for them, like creating the whole campaign. The one thing that my advantage is that I did know someone who worked at Indiegogo, right? And I kind of hounded them and said, can you please help me at least do your best practices, because you guys do this all the time, and I know that you guys know a lot more than I do about how to create the right pitch for everyone. So they helped me essentially kind of create this pitch where it was more of just getting people what we call FOMO, right? Just getting people fear of missing out, and it works insanely well. I put literally as soon as I turned it on, within 3 hours, I had already hit my goal, and then And then within a few days, so my goal was 200,000 or 250,000. And within a few days, it was 600,000. And then it went over $1 million, but there were some returns because people realized that it was going to take a little bit longer than I anticipated. And I was truthful about it, but I had about $60,000 in returns. So it went under $1 million. But I mean, in my opinion, I basically made $1 million in 30 days, which was unbelievable. Way too much, in my opinion, for me as an individual that didn't have a big business plan. I did this by myself. I had people help me with photos and videos and stuff, but generally everything was done by myself, the whole campaign and everything. And yeah, so take us to when
you launched your first product, your first bike commercially.
Yeah, so I launched it on Indiegogo, and then I did a bunch of work with one of my friends who helped me make some videos, and we did about 4 videos out in the desert, and we drove all the way to Utah like in one day. It was crazy. Filmed out in Moab and got some really awesome footage. And a lot of people, I guess, really thought that we were this big professional company when it was just me and a couple people. But like I said, I had all this experience selling other people's, name brand products, so I kind of knew the deal. And when we launched it, it took me about 9 months to actually get the first one delivered, which was about 6 months longer than I anticipated. I thought I could do it in 3. No way.
Did you farm out manufacturing, or did you decide you're going to manufacture this yourself? How did you go about that?
Yeah, so because in my early teens, I have some experience with a skateboard company that was in San Francisco, and we did all the manufacturing in San Francisco. And I was able to that company was going out of business because they didn't go electric. They stayed analog, and then in fact the patent that they had expired, and as soon as it did, this company that had an electric vehicle essentially took their patent and patented on top of it with electric, barred them basically from making it electric. That was the other thing that I experienced, right? With electric, I was like, oh my God, like electric is really taking over, and they were making $3 million a year or something, which was 3 times more than the skateboard company. So it went out of business, and it was right at the right time where I said, hey, can I take over the warehouse? Yeah, and so I took over the warehouse, and I had the same idea, like, why don't we do manufacturing in the US? Essentially do all the final assembly, any sort of little tooling or anything that we need to do, and have it come to this warehouse and then build everything out. But I quickly realized, like, the skateboard warehouse wasn't big enough. We could only make 50 bikes a month, which was, we could do 50 bikes every couple of weeks, but there wasn't enough storage for even 50 bikes. So we'd have to pull the bikes out every day to make enough room to build the bikes.
More, yeah.
Yeah, to like build them and then ship them, and
yeah, right.
Yeah. So it was.
So you launched when did you launch to the public?
It was in the end of 2017, and then the first bike came out at the end of towards the end of 2018, right? So it was kind of like after summer. I started delivering, and then the big deliveries happened in early 2019.
So how many have you delivered so far? How many have you sold?
So Onyx has sold around 7,000 bikes. There was a couple like ups and downs for the company as it started. There's a whole crazy story there, but I ended up but I ended up getting kind of really burnt out, and I just wanted to design. And around the middle of 2019, I decided that I just wanted to go design again. And I wanted to design transportation, so I went and designed a lot of the like ride share vehicles for a number of years. I was still connected to Onyx, but I ended up selling the company, and then selling to the owner. And that story is really long, but he passed away a couple years ago, and that's why I'm back, because there was no one to keep the ship going.
Keep the doors open, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually wasn't. It was closed for about a year after he passed away. So yeah, so I had to recover it.
And you're coming out with a new product now, is that correct?
Right.
Am I right? So tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a brand new bike that's essentially all of the upgrades that people have wanted for 8 years. because this company's been around for that long, and it's it's been a long time coming. I mean, this is stuff that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I wasn't around really to do it. And now that I'm back, I really wanted to take this. I view it sort of like the 911 of the company, or or the 356, right? Where it's really what I wanted to do is say, hey, like the look of it is still this beautiful, iconic look. It doesn't deserve to be completely transformed. So it's going to look very similar, but it's upgraded in so many ways. And one of the big ones is that we now have navigation on it. So you can get CarPlay or Android Auto right on your dash.
Wow.
You don't see that on a lot of bikes right now. I mean, I know that now that we're doing it, I'm guaranteed next year everyone's going to do it because it makes the most sense. If you're commuting on it, one of the most annoying things is having to put my phone on a fold holder, and I'm worried about it falling off. And even those really great, the great attachments aren't that great in my opinion. And I don't know, I just rather have the phone in my pocket and just have the screen on there, not have to set anything up, just it's ready to go, just like a car. Like I love getting in my electric car and just putting in the address that I need to go to and listening. And you can listen to music while you're riding. You can take phone calls. It's great. So yeah.
Do you think is your customer typically a commuter, or are your customers rec drivers or rec riders who?
I think it's
occasionally.
It's a good blend of both. Yeah, a lot of our customers do buy this as their main mode of transportation. Because they've noticed, riding a regular bike or riding something similar, maybe a little bit lower powered, that they can get to work a lot. Just like when I was on my gas powered bike, they can get to work a lot easier and faster. Parking is not an issue at all. A lot of times with electric, you can bring them in elevators, you can bring them right up to your desk. Like the whole problem that I had originally with my work, with the electric bike, all of the jobs that I had until I started Onyx, they're like, yeah, bring it inside, no big deal.
Yeah.
And
it's like bringing a vacuum cleaner in with you, something like that, right?
Yeah, no need to carry locks anymore. Like there was just all this benefit to it, right? And so a lot of our customers notice that, and they ride around all over their towns and cities. Most people are in major cities that buy it, because they don't have to go let's say 150 miles in a day or something. They just maybe have to go, I would say kind of the max is around 40 miles one way, 40 to 50 miles one way.
I would imagine range is not an issue with this bike at all, right? I mean,
yeah. So we go I actually have to commute 47 miles. And then I have to charge when I get to work. And then the full day it's 4 hours. I can start charging it at lunch if I wanted to, right?
So you're commuting into downtown LA from
Yeah. I actually live
40 miles away. 50 miles away.
I live in the mountains pretty far away, which I like. And for me, actually, I look forward to my commute. Like I actually have fun riding to work. Like it's a blast. It's not fun to drive.
Yeah. And, no weather issues here in Southern California typically, unless you're getting snow in the mountains or something like that.
Yeah, the rain, in San Francisco, I had to fight the rain all the time and the weather. But yeah, LA, I don't have to break out my raincoat or my rain boots or anything like that. But I mean, it's not a huge deal. Unless it's really coming down, you can get really soaked, even with the best gear. Yeah.
Well, what's the name of the new bike, and when's it coming to market? About what is it going to cost? All that stuff.
It's the RCR 80 volt. So we have the 72 volt right now, and we've upped the voltage, upped the range. It's essentially the same bike, but it's all aluminum instead of steel. So literally everything's aluminum to make the bike lighter, because we made it a little bit bigger because of the voltage. We actually have rims now, like real cast aluminum wheels, as opposed to wire spokes. Yeah, so this way you don't need tubes anymore. So if you get a flat, you can just use a car kit to plug the hole and then pump up your tire and go on your way. In the past you'd have to take the whole wheel off, do the tube. You don't want to do that on your commute. And so we fixed that, and then there is just better controls overall. The other, there's a lot of other like accessory mounting points that we've added. We have improved forks and improved braking system, bigger headlight. And before we didn't have high beams, and now we have high beams. So, I mean, there's things like that. But we've made some major improvements, and then also just other ones that just should have been there for a long time ago. Yeah.
And coming to market when, and what's the retail, Tim?
So this one's coming to market it's coming in a few days, in the 20th of June. We're launching, and then you said how much is it?
Yeah.
And our price was going to be $4,599, our launch price, but the MSRP is $49.99. So the initial 100 or so bikes will have a kind of a discount, and then we'll bring it up to its MSRP later on.
Fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating story. I wish we had a lot more time to talk, Tim. We've
Right.
actually talked twice as my segment is. So you're going to be 2 segments as opposed to 1. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. I look forward to riding this one of these days and seeing how that works out. That'll be cool.
If you're ever in there, I mean, you are kind of in the area, so you got to come by and just take it for a cruise.
Yeah, love to do that. So great talking to you, and best of luck on the new product, and we'll be talking to you soon. You take care.
Okay. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back right here on America on the Road.